Christmas was coming up. She said, go and buy yourself a present. So I thought, I'll go into town and I'll go and see the guys at Vacheron. I didn't expect to buy anything. Yeah. And I just walked in and Easy was there and he's like, I was just about to call you. It's like, the watch you want has come in and they've allocated it for you, or whatever the words were. Come and have a look. So I went down and bought this watch there and then, and came home and said, here you go, this is my Christmas present. But for me, now, Alethea's bought me this watch, and it just so happened that when I walked into the boutique, that's a moment in a story that, if this was to ever leave, which it's not going to, I'm never going to replace that emotional piece of how this came about. So there's a story behind it. I mean, there's a story behind them all. Yeah, so I've got a car and motorbike group where we retail new, used cars and motorcycles. Yeah, so working with Harley Davidson, BMW motorcycles, Triumph motorcycles, and Porsche cars. I feel like I have, in different ways, but quite a high attention to detail. I love detail. So, within cars and motorcycles, for me, it's about the design and the small cues and the things that are going on with it and how they all come together. And so always loved cars, but the two things that I first ever saved up for, one was a Tamiya lunchbox radio control car, which I think was about £100 at the time, and I actually had a Marvel milk tin, like a dry milk tin, and I saved all my coins in there and managed to buy that. And then the next thing was I bought an Accurist watch from Argos, again, something that I saved up for. I think I don't know how many jewels it had, but it had jewels on the back, and it had a display case on the back where you could see the working, and that was where it all started for me, was on that watch. The two watches I've picked out, the first is this, which is the IWC Big Pilot, which is not small. It's the Perpetual calendar, and it's I think they call it the Rodeo Drive. So it's got a very deep blue face to it, which I think works really well. So there's that one.
What's interesting to me though is so I think they've done a black dial variation before, but the Rodeo Drive was distinguished just by that blue dial. I don't think there was anything technical that was different between the standard and the Rodeo Drive. But the way that blue dial plays against the black case, there is something magical in that for me.
Yeah, and it's not a boutique edition, even though it's named after the boutique in LA.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it is big and it is bold, but it's not so bold as well. There's other ones. So at the moment, I think there's a green face with gold in it. I mean, it's brighter. This is a big watch, but I think for me, in comparison to that, it's more discreet. I certainly feel comfortable wearing it day to day, with a t-shirt. I don't think many people, or as many people, know. I think they're getting to know it, but they don't really know the brand. It's not so obvious to people who aren't into watches, which I think is nice about it as well. So you can feel really quite casual walking around using it. But yeah, there is something special about this one, and for me, it's the most special Big Pilot. Being involved with Porsche, there was always an underlying knowledge that Porsche and IWC had collaborated, or Porsche Design had collaborated over years. So I was aware of IWC through that, but also from motor racing and the links with IWC there. And then I think the link through from that Bell & Ross, in terms of being a pilot's watch. I mean, I'm not a pilot. I don't have a desire to become a pilot.
You're never going to be a pilot.
But yeah, I think there's something fun about it. I'm not going to be a fighter pilot.
Have you, since wearing it, decided that you might become a pilot?
No.
So we've got a Vacheron Overseas. I think I saw you the day after you'd bought this. What was it about Vacheron? What was it about the Overseas that you liked? Because your first interaction with the brand was the 1921, no?
Yes. Yeah. So the 1921, which again, this is a brand that you really introduced me to this, which is, so it's all your fault. level of detail on a Vacheron, you know, the detail on IWC is amazing, but the detail on a Vacheron is like to another level of extreme fine watchmaking. So that was what brought me to the brand, and then from there, I do like sports watch. I do like casual watches, and this obviously within their range is their more sporty watch, which works well for me. And also, I think it's great how they allow, you know, it comes with 3 straps, so it's got the full. This is a steel, so the full steel bracelet, which isn't for me, but having the black rubber again makes it a fine watch, but a very casual fine watch, and that's, you know, that's a winner, absolute winner.
Where do you sit on the idea of, clearly your cars get driven and your watches get used, where do you sit on the idea of using them, number one, to sort of really beat them up, and where do you want to go on looking after them? Do you tend to over care for them? Do you want to bring them back to life in certain ways, or are you okay with leaving them natural?
I think so. I've owned this one for, I don't know how long, probably 6 months now, this one. So I'll probably be enjoying it for another period of time. And then at that point, I'll end up thinking, well, I'm going to park that one for a little bit. And at that point, I'll get it refinished because I like it to be, I would want it to be perfect. You know, or as perfect as it can be. I mean, it's all of the detailing on the watch. Again, one of those, you know, you can look at them on the web or whatever, but until you actually get up close with it and see how they've sort of chamfered the edges and where it's polished and brushed and all of the tiny details, like on the second hand, there's a tiny little arrow, which you would be very difficult to pick that up without having it in your hand. And actually, I didn't even realise until probably a week in that, oh, look at that, that's amazing. So the level of thought's crazy, and then the sort of pendulum bit on the other side is really cool.
The depth on the dial as well, that black lacquered depth on it, it's got layers and it's got depth to it. And it's simple, which is quite a hard thing to achieve.
I enjoy that watch because, you know, I put another time zone on, which I'm speaking to friends across the world quite regularly. So it just helps me to think, oh, where are they? So for me, that makes my life better. You know, I look at it and think, oh, I can FaceTime Dave now because he's just got up, or
So Dave's getting more calls from you as a result.
Yeah, he probably thinks I should be calling him more often.
Did you tell him that you use this watch sometimes just to check in?
Oh, I haven't, no. It's very difficult sometimes to talk to people about watches. I don't think many people really get it.
That's the interesting thing I said to the guys the other day was there aren't the outlets necessarily to feel like you can feel comfortable to indulge in the passion, because you feel like, oh, you know, this is all a bit weird, like we're obsessing about the details of these things that we don't really need. But there's something in the psyche of some people, increasingly more people, which is great, that also admire and want to talk about these things.